My dad kicked me out of the house 5 years ago. Well, I made something out of my life, and now my father's life is starting to turn to shambles. At least that's how I see his life, but he's telling me he's living the happiest he's ever been. Let me tell you what he's up to. He's divorcing my mother, he cheated on her, and the girl that he's getting with, guys, get this because there's so much drama involved in the story, she is a stripper. I'm 24 and male. I've not really had a relationship with my dad since I was 8 years old. He wasn't really there my whole life, and I remember how much I loved him, but he was a constant disappointment. He would always be too tired and never be there for me emotionally or physically. Not to any of my school events. He would rarely come to drop me off at school or just sit in the car. But he never really tried to get to know me, you know? We would not even talk about the basics. How are you doing? How's school? Stuff like that. I felt like he was a stranger. But with the title, Dad? After I entered high school, he cut off all contact with me. I honestly did not really mind it because he wasn't really there for me before anyways. I reached out to him and told him everything I felt about him. Big mistake. He kept saying, "Stop bothering me, I didn't do anything wrong." I felt so exhausted. I felt like the whole conversation I had with him was a waste. To keep it short, my dad is a narcissist. Everything is everyone else's fault and he can do no wrong, and he even makes things up claiming you did or said things that never happened. He hates the relationship I have with my mom. My mother, 45 years old, and Dad have been together for a long time. Together they have me, my sister, who's 19, and my brother, who's 17. Neither of us kids have particularly liked our dad. Context is important, so let me give you a bit of the basics. My parents were high school sweethearts and were about to hit their 21st anniversary last year. My dad, however, had a problem staying faithful to my mom. He always had multiple relationships outside of marriage, and my mom kept catching him. But my dad would gaslight her into thinking she was not good enough. As a kid, I would remember mornings where I would wake up to them screaming at each other. As I grew older, it got worse and worse and worse as misunderstandings, mistrust, and resentments began to build up between, well, each other. My dad would drag me into this marital problem in an attempt to sway me to his side. I'll give you an example. He would trash talk my mother even if I was crying and telling him to stop. 5 years ago, I got married to my long-term girlfriend. My dad was furious with me right after marriage, and the conversation escalated to him saying that I should shut up and not argue any longer because he could easily make me homeless by asking me to leave the house within 30 days if he wanted to. I said okay and went upstairs. I packed my stuff within 2 days and I left. My wife said I could live with her and her parents were fine with it. My mom was there when this happened and she was on my side, aware of the incident, and knew that I was made homeless by my father in a passive-aggressive way. It broke me when I was forced to go out of the house because it was not just him. I lost my entire family. It's only fairly recent history that getting married fairly young is seen as unusual or undesirable. My mother was considered an old maid when she wasn't married within a year after high school. Her younger sisters were married at 17 and 16, respectively. Later in the day, after I left, my parents called and my mom texted me, asking where I was. And when I did not come home when I was supposed to, I did not reply and blocked my entire family's number and social media accounts. And I have not spoken to them since. She had been calling and texting my friends, asking them where I'm at, and I haven't told any of my friends that I'm married, so I received very confused text messages from friends asking me what's going on and why my parents are asking where I am and if I'm safe and okay. I told my closest friends that I've left home and that I'm safe and let her know to tell my parents that I'm fine. But I have no desire to speak to come home anymore. Note that there was no contact from my father. I guess my dad did not expect me to leave so quickly, so When I came back to get the rest of my stuff, he told me I could stay as long as I and my wife respected the rules and the owner of the house. I told him that I don't respect the rules or the owner anyway, so I'm not coming back. Well, I'm 24 now, and I'm doing really well in life, and me and my wife are 5 years strong and even in a new state. Dad really did not like that, but I did not leave out of spite. I just genuinely hated where I was. He was disappointed that I moved, but that's what he told me to do. He threw my stuff in my direction, which I barely dodged, and he yelled at me so quickly to pack my essentials that were left and get out of the house now. He also said that I was most likely never going to get a job and was going to stay at home forever, even though I have a well-paying job right now, Dad. Both I and my wife were affected by his behavior, but our couple survived that. We hitchhiked across the country, and then we had our own jobs. We settled in over the next few months, and my grandfather on my dad's side, before he passed away, rest his soul, told me to try to make amends with my father as I loved him very much, and I agreed to try. I slowly tried to rebuild a relationship with him, and things have been okay but strained because trusting him has been very hard. Our lives were going well until 2 months ago, when I found out my father had been cheating on my mother again after he revealed he was having an affair with someone else. I got a call from him and he told me he was engaged. He was getting married in the fall after the divorce is done, and he wanted me to come to a reunion so they could get to know each other's families, and I could get to know them. I'm the last person my dad would introduce her to because he knows I'm the most skeptical. Plus, I'm the only family member who he kicked out of the house, and therefore won't just nod and smile along, but he said that she wanted to meet his kids before they got married. I hung up the phone because I simply could not deal with it. I was emotional and I bawled my eyes out. My aunt, his sister, reached out and told me he wanted to talk and apologize for everything and that he wanted me to be at his wedding. The next day I called my dad. I told him I had no interest in meeting his new family, that he was cruel for abandoning a 19-year-old and his mother, and even more cruel for reaching out because he was forced to do so. I already had a family I was happy to secure with, and I had no interest in him being in my life because he was no longer my dad. I called my sister to ask if he had reached out to her, and guess what? He did. We have never spoken to or met the woman that he's cheating with. We have never been introduced to her by the phone, and we were taken by surprise when he told us that they have gotten engaged. In addition to discovering that they got engaged, we also learned that Lisa is a stripper. My uncle shared this information with us in complete confidentiality, and we have not spoken a word of it to anyone. We aren't supposed to know this information either, and Dad is not thrilled about it. Guys, she's between the age of 25 and 30, but we're not sure what her age actually is because my dad just keeps changing it every time he's asked. I'm worried that my dad's throwing away his family life for the chance at this romantic fling. This whole thing has come as a bit of a shock. A divorce is one thing, but it seems so crazy to me that he's going to marry a stripper who he barely knows. I've now moved on an hour away or so, and I visit my mom and asked her what was going on, and she was full on crying. I held her for 30 minutes before I could finally pull the information out of her. She told us that she was in my dad's car the other day, and there was a notebook in the back seat of his car. Well, he wasn't in the car at the time, so she picked it up and started reading it. She expected it to just be work stuff, like payroll or other things. But it wasn't. On the first page, it said stuff like, cancel her phone bill and car insurance, hire a lawyer, custody of the kids, blah blah blah. She does not vividly remember everything that it said, but on the bottom of the final page, it said, divorce, final. She also found divorce papers, and then the other day my sister found a document that indicated that he rents an apartment on the other side of town. There was just this light bulb moment when she realized it, and my mom saw it and it kind of sinked in. And she just shook her head and my sister did not say a word. When asked, my dad admitted to my mom that he and Lisa are having an affair, and they had gotten together long before he planned to bring up divorce and had been a thing for a time. He moved out of the house the day after the conversation, but in the call I had with him that day, he made it sound like he had already discussed all this with Mom, who's okay with it. After he told me that he had an affair, he also sent my mom an email saying that his mistress is going to help him take care of his side business, which has, well, been doing really badly for a really long time. Despite my mom offering my dad help numerous times, the freaky thing is that the side business belongs to both my mom and dad, since it's her money too. So the mistress has no right to be a part of it. It's clear from his actions that he would like nothing more than to be divorced from my mom. My mom has always supported my dad through everything, and she worked double shifts so that my dad could start a side business and earn a significant amount of money. She never splurged on luxury goods, and even after my dad started his successful business, my mom saved and encouraged him to invest more into it. And how does my lovely dad decide to thank her? My mom is my best friend, and I'm so sad for what she endured financially, physically, and emotionally. Thankfully, she has a prenuptial agreement, so she'll have sufficient money and a place to live after the divorce. Although she's not too upset, I feel sorry for her. Her parents were abusive to her, and she married my father relatively young just to get away from them. She abandoned her education for him, and I'm hurt that instead of divorcing my mom and then finding a partner, he chose to cheat. The next morning, we had a family meeting at an eatery to discuss the divorce, and when I was dating my current wife, my date wanted to meet me and talk to her. So now I reminded him of that, and I joked, but not really a joke, and was like, ha, are you going to be one of those dads who threaten their son's girlfriends? Why are you going to tell her not to cheat on me? Are you even allowed to say that? Or is that not a threat because you support cheating? My dad started crying, which was new for me because I kid you not, my dad is one of those retired army, football, steak, hunting, no crying kind of man. I called my dad a hypocrite and asked him if he thinks that marrying young is wrong and marrying for mere attraction isn't. He then acted like I owed it to him to respect this woman and give her a chance. But he could not even give his wife respect of waiting until he moved out of the house to start dating other women and plan to marry. He said it wasn't cheating because the marriage was over, and I said, well, how did you know that? Did you talk to Mom about it? He then said he knew it was over because she did not give him his 401k at his new job, and if you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, you do that for them. He then said, when he asked why she did not, she said, figure it out yourself, and he took that as a marriage being over, I guess. Lisa apparently gave my dad an option, my mom or her. So he's desperate to get my mom to sign the divorce papers while also not wanting to lose his kids. I confronted him, and he just told me that it was none of my business that his relationship with my mother had, quote, evolved when I left the house, and that Lisa can meet them in a way that my mother cannot. What the heck? He then went on and asked me when the last time I saw my mother was. Since he wanted to compare, well, I said it was my uncle's, Mom's second brother's funeral, and then he angrily said, well, okay, when did he die then? I broke down crying because I did not want to think about the day my uncle died. He then just sighed and said, okay, it doesn't matter. My point is that you see your mom more than me, and that's not fair. He said he only hurt me and my mom once, and this will hurt him forever. He told me that losing me was the worst thing that's ever happened, and that he's scared that I will never talk to him again. He said he'd spent years trying to be a good father to me, but I never came back to him. He told me that his and my mom's relationship had absolutely nothing to do with me and that he loved me more than anything, and he begged me to forgive him. My dad is self-centered buttwad who is incapable of taking responsibility for his actions if he can think that kicking me out and cheating on his wife was, quote, hurting you and your mother once, and that pain won't be lasting or have an effect on your lives for a long time to come, then he is truly delusional. He seems to understand being hurt, but not others. He wants to force me and Mom into an uncomfortable situation to appease his ego, and he wants to play, quote, happy family, and doesn't care how miserable his family really is. He's looking for us to validate his crappy decision, and I bet once I and my wife have children, since we do plan on having kids eventually, he'll demand to have a relationship and then want his affair partner to be labeled as grandma. Me and my siblings have clearly stated we have no interest in accepting Lisa, yet he keeps asking us why, and throwing it in my face the fact that he did not like my wife, but he dealt with it and accepted her. The hell he did! My sister told him if he doesn't leave Lisa behind, he won't be seeing his kids anymore either. He started shouting at my little brother, who tends to be pretty sensible and very affected by our father's opinion on him, over the fact that he did not like some food that he ordered and did not want to eat. I could not just stay there, and I shouted at my father too, telling him to leave my brother alone, as he was already on the verge of tears. I did not mean to raise my voice, but that was the only way I would have been affected and heard. My father started commenting about the care our mother was providing, so I told him what for years I had tried to hide, that I didn't even want this meeting in the first place. Mind you, I said that after he threatened to leave. What a joke! He's already left once and threatened to do so for as long as I can remember. I have to admit that I did say, and I quote, boo-hoo-hoo, when I heard him say, "Oh, you guys are making this so hard for me." Hard for him? Hard for him? What about his wife and kids? His divorce isn't even finalized and he's moving in to make a perfect family again. No, he's making it hard on himself. He blew up my family for a stripper, almost half his age, and now he's making us feel guilty for not being okay with it. No, his behavior sucks. If he asked once and then let it go, that might be different, but he's pushing his kids, which is uncalled for. We won't give in to spare his feelings because he clearly doesn't care that much about ours, since he won't respect us or clear no. A couple days after this, my dad's boss ended up asking my siblings some stuff about dealing with divorce as a child and how my mom handled it. After speaking, I passed the phone to my mom, and she did ask why the divorce happened and how she is, and in hindsight, it was very inappropriate question, but my mom straight up told her it was difficult because he cheated on her with a stripper. She was shocked and sympathetic. Apparently her boss had gone through a divorce where her husband also cheated. My dad ended up getting suspended from work. He then decided he wanted to retire early and ended up doing just that. He retired early because he knew he would not get another job with this on his record. My dad called my mom, saying that I've made providing for the kids difficult, even though he does not contribute much, and that she should not have taken out her anger at him on his finances. But it was not out of spite. My mom just doesn't think she needs to lie about his mistakes, that he caused all this himself. I hate him for breaking our family up, and on top of that, he tried to get me and my siblings to come and spend time with him and his mistress. Well, I hate to acknowledge his existence, and I hate it even more that he seems to think that he did nothing wrong. What's up, everybody? Mr. Redito here. Today's story is a crazy family drama. I do have 4 complete updates compiled from OP, so we're going to hop into update number 1. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily videos, and here we go. I was not expecting this to get as much attention as it did, and I really appreciate the comments and the perspectives. Anyways, actual update time. As you may know, my relationship with my father suffered really badly. I lost all respect for him. He basically threw himself a pity party a few days ago, saying no one was supporting him in his wedding. Yeah, because you hurt the people who were supposed to be the most important people in your life. My brother sent me a link to a Facebook post that Lisa had shared, saying she could not believe, and I quote, "a perfect man could have such terrible children." Though the post upset me, I tried to let it go, but I started getting calls from my father's side of the family, even my brother, telling me I was an a-hole for ruining the reunion. They told me that he canceled the whole thing and was questioning whether he should get married at all. I did say a post on Facebook saying my dad postponed his wedding. Things with my mother have improved dramatically, and I convinced her to find a lawyer. I too have started looking at family attorneys in my city because I know this will get messy. Mom is still quite emotional that my dad is like this. However, we insist that we don't care and that we don't want him in our lives. The first lawyer she went to was busy to deal with her matter, and after making multiple false promises that she would get to Mom's matter, I eventually convinced Mom to see another lawyer. She's been really helpful, and we're trying to work out a settlement. My dad, of course, won't agree to a valuation on the house and insists that she agrees to his valuation. Hopefully they'll get this sorted out soon. Dad never asked me to visit him at his new apartment, but I did bring my brother a few times. One day, I went over to pick up my brother, and Lisa was there alongside my dad. She was a really damn snake. Would sweet talk and tear my mother down in the process, and I wanted to leave as soon as possible, but they both did not take care of my little brother. Mom also told Dad that if he doesn't start being more attentive of a father, then she'll take him to court and get full custody. Now, my dad was in tears, calling her a selfish person for trying to hurt him, and he deserves to be with his children. He's actually accusing her of trying to get back at him for cheating, which is absolutely not true. He does not visit or interact with my siblings at all. I didn't like that they're being neglected since my brother complains he doesn't help them with their homework. And when he's around, my sister says he's serious and doesn't talk much. She thinks he hates them, and it's just not an environment I and my mom want them in. Update number 2. I wish I could give you a happy update, but that's not the case. Nothing's settled yet, so unfortunately my quote father is still somehow in my life. While the divorce is still ongoing, he took Lisa out to our family vacation home, where she left a thong in my mother's closet, rearranged the kitchen and bathroom storage, and threw away some of my mother's belongings, prominently set out a book titled something like "Behind Closed Doors," and left an empty bag from a local jeweler on the kitchen table to show that my dad was buying her jewelry. When confronted about all this, my dad says he does not know how any of it happened. It must be an exaggeration. Lisa would never do that. Heart of gold, blah blah. In addition to living with my dad, Lisa has now met my dad's side of the family, most of whom have accepted and adored her. I'm not close with many of them. My somewhat credulous cousin recently, as in the last few weeks, met her and swears she was going in ready for a fight, but found herself pleasantly surprised by her and seems ready to accept her as well. Maybe none of them know what kind of woman Lisa really is. I'm physically kind of nauseous about this whole thing now, and I don't want anyone to know. My dad is just a total creep. I've decided more or less to have no contact with him since he destroyed our family. I'm cutting him off. From what I understand from our lawyer, courts try to take into consideration the wishes of older children when contemplating custody. I've got a whole paragraph made about all the reasons why I can't have him in my life that I'll be sending in the morning so I know he sees it. Update number 3. I forgot I had posted this and figured I could update. The divorce procedure took a very long time, and the negotiations were pretty hard. Mom won the custody battle, though. She raked him over the coals, plus he could not face his relatives after the fact that his fiancée was a stripper, and it had been revealed to all of us. Dad's probably going to marry his new affair partner within the next few weeks if he follows pattern, but my sister tells me that he's slowly getting fed up with Lisa's BS and entitlement. She doesn't care that much when he's sick or if he's drinking too much. More power to him, I literally don't care what he does with his life anymore. In regards to my relationship with my dad, I don't forgive him, and I made it clear that I would never fully trust him again. He does want to repair my and my siblings' relationship, but it won't work. He has sent me an apology text in the past, only to go back to square one a short while later by making rude comments and insulting me. Recently, we found out that my dad had been tired from his new job in another state and was coming back to our state for an interview last Wednesday. Mom was really worried that he would try to get into our house, so I stayed home on Wednesday to ensure that he did not, and she messaged Dad saying he wasn't welcome at the property. My parents are on speaking terms, but he won't go inside her home because of the doormat at her front door and a monogram door symbol and a flag that are C for her last name. He said it was a slap in the face. My mom recently changed her last name from her married name back to her maiden name, and my dad can't stand it. The checks he owes in her alimony are still made out to my mom's first name and last name. He has told her and myself that he will never see her by her maiden name and does not respect it legally or not. I told him to stop being petty and grow up. It made him super mad, and now he feels, quote, ganged up on. Although I called the police. They said it was up to the courts and they could not do anything unless he was posing an actual threat to our safety. Maybe I should also add a door knocker in the shape of a C, so he can't even knock on the door. Well, he's been here since then and has not left. This morning, both my brother and I got a message from him saying, I'm in town this week, and I wanted to see if I could say hi or something if you were home. Love, Dad. I replied saying, no, you've been told you're not welcome on the property, man. I don't wish to see you. My brother messaged him saying the exact same thing, but also saying that he was not a father and to leave us alone. My uncle has listened to me and let me cry for him. He's been really supportive and told me that if I ever need to talk to him about what my dad is doing, he'll try to pull him into line, although it hasn't really worked out so far. I feel like my uncle is the only person I can trust right now, apart from my mom and siblings, of course. My maternal cousin, who has constantly slandered my father when he was with my mom, has been meeting up for coffee, and I've just found out that another set of neighbors who have been pestering Mom with details of the divorce informed Dad that we weren't home when he arrived. Update number 4. Hey guys, this is pretty simple of an update, but for starters, things have somewhat resolved themselves without much from me, which is a huge relief. My dad claims he could not live without my mom. He realized that Lisa was just a passing cloud and that she could not fulfill his life. Honestly, if he were a better manipulator, she'd have stayed. When we forced him to tell the truth, he says that everything is settled and the divorce is in progress, and the same woman who convinced him to leave my mom told him that she did not want to marry him, and that she was trying to just see if he would actually leave his family for her. I guess he was screwed by her after he retired. As soon as his younger mistress dumped him, he came crawling back to my mom. Now? He tells me everyone in town knows the story and any chance he gets and acts like he's the victim. I've tried to tell him that he was wrong, but he sums it up by saying that he's just a man and deserves a bit of kindness rather than an attack. His defense is, that's probably why I was with that selfish woman. I'm lonely and seeking a bit of love, some connection, and even if it's flawed. But no matter how hard he tried to get my mom and family back, it's over. I feel like I'm suppressing a lot of emotions because I don't think he can handle them. I'm having really mixed feelings about the relationship we have. Sometimes I just want to cut off relations with him altogether. You get the idea. It's far from easy to forgive someone for what they've done to you than for what you have done to someone you love. Add that to the lies and nastiness, and it's no wonder you don't want to forgive and forget. But I can tell he's trying a bit more now, and yeah, he hasn't been a good father, it's obvious. And there's a lot of things I just can't forgive. But he has gotten better since my nieces were born. And my sister told me that he started holding boundaries with Lisa. For example, my sister has a no smoking rule around the kids, and Lisa blatantly ignored that, and my dad told her to put it out or go somewhere else. Boy, did she have a massive attitude after that. But the more I see progress, the more I'll let him into my life, and I think to dig a little deeper. I'm just really afraid of losing a parent. Hating him is just going to drive him to cling further to bad relationships and make him think that is all that he has. There's no forgiveness or forgetting, but I'm willing to move forward with him as long as he respects that his mistress will never be in my or my mom's life ever. I think I may always low-key hate him though. I've still got a lot of learning to do, and a lot of things I need to come to terms with, and this is one of them, unfortunately. Okay, so before the updates were taking place, a lot of the commenters from the original post, right? They were saying how this is a red flag. OP's father has to realize that this stripper is probably just trying to take advantage of his retirement money, use him for what he has. There was too many red flags being displayed. Well, we just found out in the end of the story that is exactly what was happening, because it looks like the mistress is no longer in the picture, really. I do want to hear from you guys, from your perspective though. Do you think OP's father was completely out of his mind? Well, we know he's a cheater. We know that he doesn't really care about his children. But do you think it's also crazy that he went for a stripper half his age and expected it to be an amazing relationship? Guys, I want to hear from you in the comment section, so drop your comments down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe for daily videos. I'll see you guys tomorrow, but do remember one thing. It's cool to be kind. See ya!